Nestled within the capital of Costa Rica, San Jose, lies La Salle, Costa Rica's Museum of Natural History, located right beside the building for the Department of Agriculture. In there lies many great specimens. I've never seen such diversity in fossils before. You have prehistory's all-stars like Carnotaurus and Dimetrodon, alongside the more obscure ones like Dinictus and Herrerasaurus. And of course, there's the main character of the Mesozoic, Tyrannosaurus. But strangely enough, none of the fossils found in Costa Rica are found here in La Salle. None of them are on display. They are all most likely located in other museums. But before I go over the specimens at La Salle, I will go over a few specimens found on Costa Rican soil. So here is the entire fossil record of Costa Rica. Cuvironeus was a gomphotheres that lived 12,000 years ago. The ones that lived in Costa Rica were specialized forest dwellers and primarily fed on select plants. Dinohippus is a name that translates to terrible horse. There is no further information on Costa Rican individuals of this genus. Eremotherium was the second largest of all ground sloths, standing 6 meters tall, which is only a meter shorter than the largest ground sloth, Echitherium. The Costa Rican specimen is known from only a few bones and is currently being held at the Museum of San Ramon, where they were discovered by botanist Alberto Manuel Brenes in 1934. Oftentimes, while I was on those long bus rides across Costa Rica, I would just look out across the land, across like those barren spots on the mountain, and I wondered, like, were those mountains and hills the same way they were all those thousands of years ago? And if I could go back then, would I have a chance to see the behemoths that once ruled the land? Glyptocerium is a standard model ground sloth. It has had many fragmentary remains found all across Costa Rica. A fun fact, this armadillo was actually on a poster I used to have back when I actually lived in Costa Rica. It was a large poster I got out of a National Geographic magazine. It was the Ice Age megafauna of Mexico, and yeah, sure enough, it was on there. As if Toxodon was not already a weird animal, next we have Mixotoxodon, which is the remixed version, henceforth even weirder. It was discovered alongside the Eremotherium bones in the same dig site. Negaprion was a species of extinct lemon shark that was present globally during the early Eocene, until climate change probably killed it off at the end of the Pliocene. A numelite is a large, I'm just going to read this off of Wikipedia. A numelite is a large lenticular fossil characterized by its numerous coils, subdivided septa into chambers. They are shells of the fossil and present-day marine protozoan numelites, a type of foraminiferian. Along with the lemon shark, it is the oldest fossils ever found in Costa Rica. Plimetanastes. Plimetanastes. He's plio, he's meta, and he's nasty. Ew. Plimetanastes and Cebocerium were both ground sloths, with Pliometanastes being a very small ground sloth, the size of a regular sloth, while still remaining a ground sloth. Meanwhile, Cebocerium was about grizzly bear sized and was a very close relative of Megacerium. Speaking of ground sloths, La Salle has 0 ground sloths. Like, in their taxidermy section, they have every single species of extant sloths, but not a single extinct one. They have no ground sloths whatsoever. Actually, no, scratch that. They have every single extant Xenarthran taxidermied on display, but not a single extinct one. They have invested more into dinosaurs, like their prized possession, Tyrannosaurus. What do I even need to say about Tyrannosaurus? It's the T-Rex. I literally called it the main character of the Mesozoic, and for good reason. It was the greatest predator that the world had ever seen. It would only be 65 million years later that it would finally be dethroned as the greatest predator ever by yours truly, humans. Same with Triceratops, the poster child of herbivorous dinosaurs. One dinosaur you've never heard of would be Yangchuanosaurus. It's Chinese, specifically from Yangchuan, and it's from the late Jurassic. La Salle most likely came into possession of this one because it was probably a cheap bargain. Like, you know, when you like go to discount stores like Ollie's or Hobby Lobby, and you like go through the toy section and they have like all those Jurassic World toys like on sale because nobody wants them, like Orcoraptor and Nigrosaurus. Yeah, nobody wants those, so they go on clearance. Same thing with Yangchuanosaurus. I wouldn't be surprised if there even was a Yangchuanosaurus action figure that went on clearance. So here's my little conspiracy theory about La Salle. So they advertised Dilophosaurus, which is another mid-sized theropod. I think something happened to Dilophosaurus, and they got Yangchuanosaurus to take its place. In like the little display that they have in the middle of the museum. I hope the Dilophosaurus is okay, and I was pretty sad to not see Dilophosaurus there, because realistic Dilophosaurus, dude, that's actually my favorite dinosaur. Like, it is a giant boxing cassowary dragon thing that's as tall as an ostrich. That is horrifying. But what was definitely not okay was their interactive CD-ROM.
It's an interactive CD-ROM!
Oh no. What'd they do to Dilophosaurus?
Dilophosaurus. Meaning of name, double-crested lizard. Period, Jurassic. Family, Dilophosauridae. Diet, carnivore. Size, 6 meters long and 2 meters high. Found in North America. Characteristics. The crests were weak for battle, but could have been used for species recognition and sexual selection.
They didn't have crests. Oh, wait.
This dinosaur possessed an expandable necklace. The skull was big in comparison to its skeleton in general.
And in regards to the missing Dilophosaurus, I asked La Salle on Instagram, and they responded, hey buddy, this is La Salle College, you need to get in touch with the La Salle Museum. So then I did get in touch with the Salle Museum, and they read my message, but they never responded. So that only furthers the mystery on the conspiracy regarding the missing Dilophosaurus. I'm going to get you eventually, La Salle and Dilophosaurus. Even if it takes receiving a CIA award for outstanding journalism. There was an Ornithochirus of Walking with Dinosaurs fame on the ceiling, although I never got a good look at it and forgot to capture it on camera. They have the skull of the South American tyrant Carcharodontosaurid Giganotosaurus. From the Cretaceous period. You know, fun fact, I actually bought this at the North Carolina Museum of Natural History in Raleigh. It was like $35. It's a really good statue. It looks good on a shelf. As well as one of the very first theropods to get large, Herrerasaurus, from the Triassic. Albeit the one I saw, what must have been a juvenile, because looking at size reconstructions, it is much, much bigger, and the one I saw was roughly leopard-sized. Also from the Triassic, we have Phaseolasuchus, one of the largest terrestrial crocodiles to ever live. Pachyrhinosaurus has been displaced from his Arctic home and brought all the way to Costa Rica, but they're not the only Canadian here. Arguably, one of the most important dinosaurs who never gets attention is also on display, Dromaeosaurus. After which, the dromaeosaurs like Deinonychus and Velociraptor get their name. Its name is almost always spoken exclusively when referring to its more popular cousins. It is always a bridesmaid, never a bride. You may have noticed an outlier among these archosaurs, the saber-toothed reptomammalian Inostrancevia. From the Permian, it is the size of a lion and it looks mean. Right beside the one who became before the dinosaurs is the one who came after the dinosaurs. The full skeleton of Gastornis is on display with the title of Diatryma. It is important to note that Diatryma is actually the American synonym of Gastornis. But it was specifically said on the label that that specimen of Gastornis was dug up in Europe. Henceforth, it would be labeled as Gastornis and not Diatryma, despite the fact that they are both the same species. If we ever were to meet Gastornis in person, I theorize we would definitely be able to tell a difference between the European population and the American population due to them being so far apart, which is why I like to consider Diatryma to be its own distinct thing. Not its own distinct genus or species, it's still a synonym of Gastornis. I just like to consider its own thing because in life it definitely would have been genetically distinct, although there's no way to tell that. Moving away from the display centerpiece, we have two complete mammalian megafauna skeletons. Ursus splayus is the cave bear and it stood 6 feet tall. At the shoulder, on their hind limbs, they could reach up to 9 feet in height. If modern brown bears weren't terrifying enough, this one was even bigger. Now then, let's compare the average cave bear to the modern day 700-pound super-powered cannibal god bear that is the boss. Good lord, that is one hell of a band name. The 700-pound super-powered cannibal god bear. Now, I'm not going to go into it right now. The boss deserves his own video due to the crazy stuff that happens with the boss. Minimal estimates for cave bears put them greater than the boss at 800 pounds and a maximum of 2,200 pounds. Meaning that everything the boss can do, a small adult cave bear can do better. Then, imported all the way from La Brea, California, Smilodon. Specialized in hunting the largest game, it, like all other saber-tooths, would use its claws to box its prey into submission and then pull out the sabers for a clean fatality. One recent discovery about Smilodon is that it has double sabers. That's pretty misleading. You see, it's actually two smaller sabers. Alright, so you see these are the main sabers right here? Two smaller sabers right here that hold them in place so when it bites down, they don't accidentally get lodged out of place. Yeah, those double sabers exclusively serve the purpose of holding the bigger ones in place. Other cats and cat-like things have developed different means of holding their sabers in place, mainly sheaths for their swords. Other saber-toothed cats, along with their cousins, the nimravids or false saber-toothed cats, would instead mew out their chins to form sheaths for their sabers. Case in point, Barbarophilus, the barbaric cat. It is an extreme example of the chin sheath, and it was not present at La Salle, but one cat who was present at La Salle and had a sheath chin was Dinictus. This nimravid had a much lesser sheath for its much lesser but still big sabers. And cats were not the only one packing saber-tooth heat in the Cenozoic streets, because the South American sporodontid marsupial Silacosmilus atrox, who I should have grabbed off the shelf but I didn't. Here we go. That's him right here. Here, you get to hang out with your friend right here. Silacosmilus atrox was here too. Now, I have a bit of a bone to pick with pop culture when it comes to Silacosmilus, because it's always portrayed as the big bad marsupial cat. It's small. It was by all means not a marsupial Smilodon, and more akin to a marsupial Dinictus. And like, I can assure you, Silacosmilus was not an apex predator. especially when you had the polar bear-sized boar hyena running around. Also not present at La Salle. Alongside terror birds, also not present at La Salle. Also, can I just say something for all the people who are out here either drawing or modeling or creating any depictions of Selachosmilus? Please stop putting fur on the sheaths. Please keep them fleshy, or at least in the area where the sabers rest. Because, like, I see that and every time I'm like, ew! Ew, that just looks like that just looks like a breeding ground for bacteria. You know, like Selachosmilus, like, hold on, I need a subject. Who will I sacrifice to the cat that's not a cat? You. Okay, so you have Selachosmilus, and it sticks its fangs into like the neck of something, and then there's just like blood and body juices all over the place, and then they like get all over like the sheaths, and then they're just stuck there. They soak in, and then they marinate and they fester. Ew. Something that's always bothered me about Selachosmilus is that its eyes are all the way on the side of its head, as you can see right there. Oh wait, I can just put a picture on screen. And I've always wondered, like, why are its eyes on the sides of its head? Like, surely that can't just be due to family relations, because then why do no other marsupials look like that? And it can't be its nasal cavity, because there's no way it would ever need a nasal cavity that big, because it lives in a jungle. Turns out, the truth is stranger than any speculation that I could have speculated. I gotta read this one. I never knew why it looked like this until I saw The Weird Origins of Marsupials by Hodgepodge. There I learned the reason why Selachosmilus looks the way it does, because the roots of its sabers are all the way in the back of its head. That is unnecessary. What part of the Sparacidont genome said, alright, saber roots, move on back? It's the saber roots go so far back into the back of its head, it displaces every other organ inside the head, including the eyes, and the roots of the sabers are right beside the brain case. Meaning that if you were to grab the saber of Selachosmilus and push it inwards, it would give it a headache. And if Selachosmilus bit down too hard on something, it would receive brain damage. Why? What beef did God have with Selachosmilus to give it this flawed of a design? Now, of course, Selachosmilus, along with all the other Sparacidonthids, got outcompeted when, ironically, Costa Rica showed up, and all the placental mammalian predators crossed the land bridge and outcompeted them. Or did they? Because fossil evidence shows that the Sparacidonts were already long gone before the placental predators came to South America. Now then, we don't know what caused them all to mysteriously vanish. The leading theory is that changing time zones threw off their hunting schedules, and that somehow led them to extinction. Now then, that is what we in the scientific field like to call Aurochs coprolites, because I'm not believing that. I refuse to believe that changing time zones, or like something along those lines, threw off their hunting schedules, caused them to not get enough sleep, and they somehow didn't adapt. Like, there had to be some other reason, but it's a mystery, we'll never know. The dire wolf is inaccurately labeled as Canis dirus, when it should be the new name Eocyon dirus. But my favorite part is that in Spanish they are called Lomos primitaves, meaning primitive wolf, implying that modern wolves came from Eocyon when they obviously didn't. Hyenodontids are known for being big dogs with big heads. Hyenodon horridus was the second largest species. And I actually have a very accurate representation of how big Hyenodon horridus actually was.
Ruby. Ruby. Do you like the forest? The forest, Ruby? Oh, look at Ruby. Oh, she loves rolling around in the forest.
Because it's the size of my dog. I'm not kidding, it actually is just the size of my dog. Yeah, it's another Salecosmilus situation where you think it would be bigger, but then it turns out it's not. The only animal in the display case of skulls whose size I was not surprised by, despite never having seen it before, was Velociraptor. A small dromaeosaur, ideal size for a pet. I would totally love a real life-size Velociraptor. They look so cuddly. They're essentially just like overgrown fennec foxes of the Mesozoic. The bear-sized beaver, Castaroides, had a massive skull. It was just as big as the American lion, Panthera atrox. Like, those mammal skulls were about the same size as the skulls of Camptosaurus, Elasmosaurus, Dimetrodon, and the star of the hit Go Jay Go Go special, Maiasaura. Strange coincidence, I should point out, with Castaroides and the American lion, both lack the one big feature that their modern counterparts are known for. There is no evidence that Castaroides ever built dams, or had a flat tail. Probably because it was so big it didn't need to. And as for Panthera atrox, its closest relative is Panthera splaya, the cave lion in Europe. And we know from cave paintings found in France that Panthera splaya did not have a mane. Therefore, through the process known as genetic bracketing, we can infer that the Panthera atrox probably also did not have a mane. Bigger than those skulls was the hippo-sized skull of the Permian reptile Hippo Esemosuchus, who used its large muscle cheeks and large fangs that would later be convergently pawned on by the hippopotamus and entelodonts to ward off predation. Can you tell I'm a little tired? Out of all the specimens there, the skull of Carnotaurus was the last thing I was expecting to see. South American Abelisaurid with horns, Carnotaurus was fast. And not just because of its arms putting it in a perpetual Naruto run, but because the muscle strains left on its bones say so. And because the Naruto running arms made it more aerodynamic, I'm not kidding. It most likely lived its life like a cheetah, running around South America 30 to 35 miles per hour, which doesn't sound like much, but is horrifying on a creature of that size. Ceratosaurus. Oh boy, Ceratosaurus. Oh, Ceratosaurus is a weird one. Scientists can find no clear way as to how Ceratosaurus could have possibly fit into their environment, which is, by the way, the Morrison Formation during the Jurassic, alongside Allosaurus and Saurophaganax. But they were somehow still successful. And what makes it even weirder is that Ceratosaurus is almost exclusively found near where bodies of water used to be. Now then, I have a theory. My own little personal theory on Ceratosaurus is, what if it was always waiting near water for prey to come along and then it attacks the prey? And what if, in order to help with this little job occupation of its, maybe its horns had feathers on them that looked like large lakeside plants? And then prey would come along and then it would jump out and attack them, and Ceratosaurus, they got fossilized. They are the ones who failed in their ambush. and got killed by the lakeside, therefore they got fossilized. Okay, this video has been me going over fossils almost in order, but I have skipped a few. For example, I love Dimetrodon, but I can't really name anything much interesting about it right now. Moving on to the final skull case, Archaeotherium. Its name means the ancient beast, and Archaeotherium was definitely not the biggest of Entelodonts. And the skull really shows that, because it's big, but it's not massive. Parasaurolophus is the one dinosaur we've actually managed to recreate a sound from, due to it using its horn like a trumpet. Another thing that nearly every depiction of Parasaurolophus gets wrong is its size, because it was absolutely massive. It was almost as big as the tyrant killer Edmontosaurus, whose skull was right beside it. A giant hadrosaur that has scientifically been proven to survive attacks from tyrannosaurs. And finally, the last specimen. How long has this recording been going on for? It's 34 minutes. I got a lot of editing to do. Finally, Inostrancevia. Once the non-avian dinosaurs were gone, these were the first mammals to get truly massive. And big they were, with their shoulders going over the head of a 6-foot-tall man. Speaking of Inostrancevia, can we bring back its retro reconstruction? You know, the one with like the trunk and the antlers. Not for educational purposes, of course, but like as a fantasy creature, because it does look really cool as like a fantasy creature. It was a cool design. It took forever to write. I highly suggest you visit La Salle if you have the opportunity to do so. There are many other specimens I did not talk about, and not just specimens, but models too, like the Therizinosaurus embryo cross-section and the Diplodocus skull. Oh man, I'm tired. Anyways, I hope you learned something today, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.